Hi, welcome to yet another podcast on A Story for Your Query. Of late, we've been talking about mental health and diversity of learners. The world would be a boring place, I believe, if there was no diversity. Just as we have 5 fingers of different length on our hands and we use it to do the work skillfully, children with diverse backgrounds, cultures, genders, learning abilities form the whole spectrum of learners. As teachers, we need to have the right technique to use with sensitivity and compassion to bring out the best in them. This brings to mind a student of mine who had a visual impairment, and she's working now, she's grown up and she's working now in a bank, quite well settled. I'm proud of that. And when she was in school, the assignments that she had to do, she couldn't probably write on her own, a smart, intelligent girl, and she had to depend on somebody to write it for her. So what we would do is we would permit her to submit an audio recording or a video recording as the case may be. And this was permitted even by the board. So the question that I have here is, question for Monica. Which are the different kinds of disabilities or differently abled children whom we can admit in a regular school setup?
All right. So initially, it was the case was that children with disabilities were sent to special schools. They were not admitted in regular schools. But now India is becoming more aware. And the Maharashtra board, in fact, recognizes more than 20 different concerns that children may have, and it has given concessions for those. So there are difficulties like learning disabilities, visual impairment, auditory impairment, Parkinson's, multiple sclerosis. Loads of disabilities that are now recognized by the government, and concessions are given for these children so that they can be accommodated in our regular schools and don't have to uh, go to a special school, which may hamper their socio-emotional learning.
Did I hear you say Parkinson's for children?
Yes. Parkinson's is also included as one of the disabilities that is recognized by the Maharashtra board for concessions.
That's very, very heartening to know that children from different varied capabilities can be mainstreamed. Or did I use the word right? Is it mainstreaming or is it inclusion? What is it?
It is inclusion. So there is a difference. There's a very subtle difference between mainstreaming and inclusion. And a lot of times this is also used interchangeably. So in mainstreaming, what happens is children with difficulties are also, they're in the same class as children without any disabilities, but there is no extra support as such that is given in the classroom. But in an inclusive school, children are given a lot of different support systems. For example, there's a shadow teacher who can teach a child whatever is going on in the classroom. There is a lot of support in terms of exams, so there's extra time given. When there is a curriculum that is taught, they are not expected to learn the entire curriculum. So for example, if children without disabilities are expected to learn the names of all the states and their capitals of India, maybe a child with disability can be expected to learn only the names of the states and the capital of their own state. So these subtle differences differentiate a mainstream school from an inclusive school. The classroom modifications and the classroom support that is being given to the child. In terms of India, I think nowadays the awareness has increased. So all the boards across boards, there are a lot of concessions given to children, regardless of whether the school is mainstream or an inclusive school.
What are these concessions? I heard you say the word repeatedly. What are these concessions?
Yes. Okay. So, if a child is diagnosed with, for example, a learning disability, then depending on the diagnosis, for example, if the child has dyscalculia, that is difficulty with mathematics, an ICSE school provides the use of a calculator, a scientific calculator. An SSE school provides lower level math. So, a child who is in the ninth and 10th grade would be allowed to take seventh grade mathematics. ICSE schools even allow the child to drop science and math. If there is difficulty in writing, then the child is allowed additional time to write. They are allowed writers. If there is difficulty in reading, they are allowed readers. Some of the boards also allow condoning of spelling errors, because a lot of times with dyslexia, that is difficulty in reading, children find it difficult to spell the words correctly. So, based on the child's difficulties, these are the different concessions that are given to the child, and this is across board. No school can say that we don't provide concessions because we are a mainstream school. The schools are nowadays the schools are not allowed to say that. It's a rule that children will get concessions if they have these difficulties.
It's very heartening to know that things have moved ahead. When I was doing my B.Ed in 1985, we had not heard of any of this.
Yeah.
Today, it has found a place in the B.Ed curriculum, and the teachers are getting to know about it.
Absolutely.
Now, I have a question for you, Monica. I had come across a school where the children with different abilities, different capabilities were taken, and they were put in a separate class. So ideally, they were in the school as all regular children, but they were kept in a separate class. So they were not mingling with them.
Mm-hmm.
So what would you refer to this?
So this can be called an integrated school model, where for some subjects like our English language subjects or science subjects or math, they have a separate class where they are instructed separately. But for what would be called exploratory subjects like PE or art or dance, they are all together with the other children. So this is like an integrated model where for academic related subjects, they are in a separately instructed classroom. But for other subjects, they are mingling with the other children as well, and they are getting the same instructions as all the other children. So this would be called more of an integrated model of schooling.
So the integrated model helps these children in the sense that the scaled down syllabus would be given out to them and they would be able to cope with it.
Yes,
Am I
yes,
right?
absolutely. Yes, you're absolutely right. So the scale down syllabus, because these children are facing difficulties, the scale down syllabus helps them gain confidence that, okay, I'm studying this and I'm able to understand this. I'm able to cope with whatever is going on in the classroom. I'm able to be at the same level as my peers, because for them, their peers are the children in that particular class. So it does help them build that confidence, build those skills. And when they are in the PE class or in the art class, they're also mingling with the other children and developing their social skills with them. So yes, it does absolutely help them.
I see. That makes sense. Now, we only talked about children with learning disability. There must be children with other kinds of disabilities, isn't it?
Yes.
Which are other disabilities that find their way into a regular school?
So children with visual impairment, children with physical impairment, maybe some difficulty like cerebral palsy or hearing impairment. Children like these are also finding their way in mainstream schools. But these schools need to provide a lot of support in the classroom environment. So, for example, with a child with visual impairment, like you said, submitting assignments in an audio or video format, or getting a writer for them, a writer and a reader who can help them with the exams, maybe getting a shadow teacher in class and helping them with the written work. So these are the things that now I recently read that CBSE schools are allowing children with visual impairments to submit assignments in braille. So that's another step towards inclusion for children. Now, children with physical disabilities, for example, somebody who cannot walk or cannot climb up the stairs, uh, uh, changes or concessions for them or support for them would be, providing them with a lift, like using use of the lift, or maybe having their classrooms on the ground floor. And in terms of examinations, their support would include getting a center which is closer to their house. Now, I also believe that ICSE, CBSE schools have the same school for their exams, but SSE schools get children from SSE schools get different centers. So then, getting a center which is close to their house helps. Having a class on the ground floor helps. So I remember there was this one school where I used to work, and a child there had difficulty, like she used to use crutches, and it was a regular school, so there was no extra concession made for her. And I used to see the mother struggling every day to get the child up 2 floors and then down 2 floors. So she used to come half an hour early, especially to get this child up the 2 floors, and then down. She used to come like the child used to leave a little early so that she could climb down. Then there was a change in the principal. And I think the first thing that the principal did when they came to know that this is a concern is shift the entire class to the ground floor. And that was a really amazing thing for the on the principal's part to recognize this, and get the entire class coming to the ground floor, because they knew that they can't get a lift, made in this particular infrastructure. So this is what they did. And that was really amazing, on their part to do something like this. It was very unheard of.
Oh, no, not really. I can share one
In
experience.
that particular school, I should mention, in that particular school, it was really an amazing thing for him to do. But yes, ma'am, your experience.
The school where I was a principal, there was a child who had muscular dystrophy, and his younger brother was normal. This child would come with a ayah who would take care of him. He was permitted to use the lift. He could go up, but then over a period of time, he started deteriorating slowly but gradually. So every year, the class that he was in would be the class closest to the toilet, to the boys' toilet.
Yeah. Okay.
And every time he if he was not on the same floor and his class had to move up, because sometimes the furniture and everything, it's difficult to move. There was a lift, so he could use the lift. So a rod had to be provided for him to use the toilet. For him to stand, even that was difficult to see.
Right.
So, and the ayah couldn't go in
Correct.
up to a point. But then I suppose I left the school, so I don't know now what's happening there now. But this is what we did.
Yeah.
I think all principals are not so tough. We do have
Yes.
our heart in place most of the time.
Absolutely. And I think it makes a difference. Having an aware principal in the school makes a huge difference in the mental health of the children. So, one of the other schools that I worked at, mental health was not given a lot of priority. Like in the school that I'm currently working, life skills is a regular class. I have a class with the children once a week. In that school, I used to get proxies, so I was just a proxy teacher. And there, because it was required by the board, or the principal at that time was like, okay, maybe we need a counselor to do the concessions and stuff, so let's have one. And that's how I was there. But when I suggested that maybe life skills can be made part of the curriculum and I can meet them once a week, the response was that what you're saying is very radical. It's a very yeah, it's a very radical change to have life skills as part of the curriculum, and we don't know how much that can happen. And it didn't, of course it didn't. The next year, the timetable remained the same, the bags remained heavy, there was no importance still given to mental health. And then I left the school. So that was that. And when I joined this particular school, I was really happy to see that life skills was a part of the entire curriculum. There was no there was no radicalness about it, about having life skills and about meeting the children once a week. So I see that I can do a lot better work in this school because mental health awareness is there among the management, among the principal, among the HM and the teachers. So it makes my work a lot easier because there's a lot more acceptance of what I'm telling them. So yeah.
So you can reach out to the children better, you mean?
Yes, a lot better. And children know me, I know them. I know most of the children, all of the children, in fact, in from pre-primary to the fifth grade, which was not the case in the previous school because I didn't get to interact with all of them on a regular basis.
So in other words, mainstreaming or inclusion can only work if the people who are in the school have an open mind to accept.
Yes, because for inclusion to work, there are a lot of classroom support that is also required. It's not just giving them concessions during the exam and saying that, okay, we are doing our part. The child needs so much more support in the classroom. And uh, like one of the schools I worked with, they wouldn't allow a shadow teacher in class. They just wouldn't, and there was no reason given for that. They used to give the concessions, but if a child, say in first grade, has a lot of issues with understanding what is going on in the class, that child was not allowed a shadow teacher. So that was very disheartening,
Yes.
to see that something as simple as just one extra individual sitting in class focusing on the child would make a world of difference. But that did not happen. So that awareness is very important, very important.
And also a shadow teacher will take a lot of load off the teacher, isn't it?
Yes, because the teacher has, say, 40 children that she needs to teach, she needs to work with, she needs to ensure that they're understanding. And if there's this one child who has more needs, it becomes very difficult for that one teacher to take care of those needs. And I know that there are so many teachers who do these things, but I also understand the pressure it puts on them. So a shadow teacher who is focusing on this child, who is explaining a lot of things to this child, becomes like this huge support for the child as well as for the teacher, and the general classroom environment then becomes a lot more settled.
How do you get the children to accept these different kinds of capabilities in children?
Right. I think the first step would be having the parents accept that, because with the parents showing a certain kind of distress or a certain kind of anxiety, this automatically gets transferred to the children also. So when they see that their parents are agitated that you are not able to read or you are not able to write, the child also starts believing that, yeah, I'm not able to read, I'm not able to write, and no amount of help is going to make any difference. So they simply resist. So the first step would be to help the parents understand that different children will have different needs, and it is our job to provide them help, which kind of works with their needs. It's not the help that we can give, it's the help that the child needs that we need to focus on. So first of all, speaking to the parents. Second, awareness programs in school. So when I have life skills, a lot of times, of course, the topic is mental health, but a lot of times it is academic related mental health also. So telling children that your peers may not be the same as you, and that's okay. That kind of awareness helps. Now, in terms of the child, particularly the child who has these difficulties, sitting and explaining them what exactly do they how exactly are they different from their peers, what are their different needs, and how can we help them, is very important. So once children understand that, okay, this is what I need differently, my peers learn through method A, but I learn through method B, and that's okay. A lot of acceptance comes from that. So somebody to just sit down and answer their questions, that's the way to go. So awareness amongst parents, awareness amongst peers, and somebody to explain, create awareness, answer questions of the children in question will help a lot.
Now, which are the kind of children who cannot be admitted into regular school at all?
Yes. So children with intellectual disability, and when I say intellectual disability, an IQ of 85 and below, they have a lot of difficulty. Some children still are admitted to a regular school, but I do see them struggling a lot. I see them struggling a lot, and I feel that after a point of time, it makes sense to have the child in a special school, because mainstreaming them is causing them more harm than good. So children with a lot of disabilities in terms of intellectual disability first uh, are somebody who can who should be who would benefit more from a special school as compared to a regular school or an inclusive school. Somebody with a lot of somebody living in an area where there are no inclusive schools, or where there are no schools that cater to that particular disability, children generally, so I think these two generally are the children who would benefit from specialized school, one who have intellectual disability, and the others who have physical disabilities and living in an area where the schools don't cater to their particular needs would benefit from a special school. Yes.
Autistic children can be taken into the regular school?
So not like a traditional regular school, but maybe an inclusive school with a shadow teacher. Autistic children with autism spectrum do work well, but these children will require a lot of support. So depending on where they are on the spectrum. So since autism is a spectrum, if they are if they're showing a few symptoms that can be managed with a shadow teacher with specialized instructions, it's okay for them to be in an inclusive school. But if they are on the spectrum where they have a lot of symptoms, so for example, if they are constantly if they're constantly moving around without any purpose, or if they're constantly making some or the other kind of noise, if they're not able to focus at all, if the classroom environment is very distressing for them, because children with autism are generally sensitive to lights and sounds, and if the classroom environment is very distressing for them, then they can benefit more from a special school. So when we talk about children being admitted to a special school or a mainstream school, it is important to see their particular needs and then make a decision based on that. So as children grow up, the needs become more clear, and a decision can be taken at that point of time whether to mainstream the child or to send the child to a special school. So it's a lot of teamwork of the special educator, the counselors, the teachers, the occupational therapists. All of them need to come together to work with these children.
I remember there was a student in one of the schools that I worked in many years ago. I was a teacher in the primary class. And this child, on hindsight, I feel must have had an intellectual handicap. And I used to put another bright spark next to him so that that person could do the hand holding. Otherwise, in a class of 40, it becomes next to impossible. Yeah. But somewhere I felt the mother was reluctant to accept the fact that there was a problem with the child. Yeah. That I thought was the root cause of putting him in a regular school where he was not benefiting really. The child was not benefiting.
Yes.
Yeah, you wanted to say something?
Yeah, so I think this is one of the major obstacles when it comes to giving children the support they need, parental reluctance. It's so when you try to tell the parents that your child has different needs, your child needs an individualized education plan, or your child has special education needs, parents are a lot of times in denial, and getting them out of that denial becomes very difficult. So I remember this one child, he was very active, a lot of energy in the classroom, and he was in first grade. And I spoke to the parent. I had repeated meetings with the parent. I told the parent that your child is not able to sit even for 2 minutes in the class. One, it is disrupting the class. Second, if the teacher is shouting at the child and making him sit forcefully, that is also not good for the child, because then that energy comes out as aggression. Pushing the classmates, and during the recess there was some or the other ruckus that the child used to create. And I feel it was a failure on our part that we were not able to give the child the necessary help. But one of the biggest obstacles was that the parent was just simply not willing to take the child to a psychiatrist who could prescribe medication, or for an assessment that would help us understand how much his hyperactivity is affecting his functioning, and then take it ahead from there. So towards the end, after having repeated meetings with the parent, telling the parent that this child requires help, and the parent being like, no, no, but that person, that doctor had said that my child is okay. And I told her that this was 6 months back, but right now the child is still facing concerns, he's still showing concerns. The parent was just not willing to accept. So I think this has this has been. I keep asking myself, could I have done something more? Could I have been a little more persistent? I don't know. I'm not in that school anymore, so I really don't know. But yeah,
I
I
share
mean,
your sentiments, Monica. The thought
yeah.
crosses my mind too. So many years, but the thought crosses my mind too.
Yes.
Anyway, today has been a very interesting session, I think. The time has just flown by, and it's time for us to
Oh
say,
yes.
yes, it's time for us to say this brings us to the end of the podcast. And do write in to us if you have any queries. yourquerymystory@gmail.com. If you're reluctant to write, you may send a voice message. Till then, bye from us.
Take care,
Take
everybody.
care.
Bye bye.